Ready? Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for sticking around until the last session of today because we still have some really great LAS research projects and content triage to tell you about. I'm Tina Kohler.
And I'm Lori Wachter.
We're going to take a little time right now to give you an overview of the content triage research that the LAS has worked on this year. As we looked at the 2023 content triage projects, we noticed they focus on 3 triage aspects: sight, sound, and search. So we have organized our theme across these 3 topics, which you'll find as our pods in the interactive session that directly follows our overview of content triage.
Hey, Tina, say cheese.
Lori,
I'm going to post a real-time pic to my LinkedIn account about our content triage overview.
Lori, quit clowning around. We have to tell the audience about all the great research in our site pod.
That is exactly what I'm doing, Tina, because you see, with the ubiquity of the camera phone, more and more of our conversations, are happening through images and video. With the rise of the pics or it didn't happen era, seeing is believing. Or is it? Along with the rise in visual communications, deepfake and other inauthentic media capabilities have also become increasingly available and increasingly powerful. As a result of this trend, intelligence community analysts now need support in recognizing and understanding potentially manipulated media content encountered in prosecuting their intelligence missions. Professor Matthew Wright and his team at the Rochester Institute of Technology took on this challenge in 2023 to create a web-based deepfake detection tool. Wright's group at RIT is well poised as an LAS performer on this project, as they have already done work to address the challenges of manipulated media in journalism, specifically to provide tools to support journalists in identifying manipulated video content. While a different context than intelligence analysis, journalism is a valuable proxy. RIT's deepfake web application is a research prototype intended to help journalists detect deepfake videos, developed with support from the National Science Foundation and the Knight Foundation as one of its winners of the AI and News Open Challenge. The tool gives the users the capability to easily run a variety of manipulation detection algorithms on videos uploaded to YouTube, giving journalists a first line of support in dealing with potentially suspicious media content. Beyond simply providing a tool, however, RIT's work is also focused on the application's usability and how users interpret the results that it provides. Wright's team has been able to better understand the needs of the intelligence analysts, including the challenges they face in reporting on a highly technical topic, and how the application might most effectively convey the findings that it produces. RIT has not only pursued detection research efforts, but they have also focused on the explainability of detection techniques, which is a critical need for analysis and intelligence production. But don't take our word for it. Stop by the Content Triage's site pod and check out the RIT team's research and display and see for yourself.
One example of a project featured in our sound pod is our emotion detection collaboration with the University of Texas at Dallas. This collaboration is advancing the progress of the voice triage research team at the Laboratory for Analytic Sciences in its multi-year goal to equip analysts with a tool that will provide labels indicating how people are talking. For the last 3 years, researchers and analysts have experimented with several machine learning algorithms using the largest naturalistic emotional speech data set available in the world today, the multimodal signal processing podcast corpus. This corpus was curated by LAS collaborator Dr. Carlos Busso and his team at the Multimodal Signal Processing Laboratory at UT Dallas. This data set contains tens of thousands of annotated segments from podcast recordings with Creative Commons licensing. It includes recordings of hundreds of speakers whose voices span the valence arousal space, where valence describes whether an emotion is positive or negative, and arousal refers to the strength or intensity of an emotion. Using this data set as a baseline, Dr. Busso and his project team explored the use of various self-supervised learning representations and their ability to provide high accuracy speech emotion recognition performance. Their goal was to understand the feasibility of creating domain-specific speech emotion recognition models that require less training data, are more computationally compact, and are similarly accurate to models trained with current large and computationally intensive methods. You can learn more about this effort by checking out the sound pod of the Content Triage interactive session coming up here.
Recommender systems have seen a growing application in just about every field. Over the past 2 years, Punch has applied a recommender system and transfer learning theory to SIGINT data to study whether it's possible to make accurate and reliable recommendations for analysts using this data. We develop pipelines which can be configured on unclassified data sets and then employed and deployed and tuned on classified data. This year, Punch and the LAS team have paired together to take this work to the next level, literally. They have been working to take it to the high side, creating a recommender system which can be used and improved by analysts in operations. This works in a few steps. First, the model is tuned based on behavior of the analyst using it as implicit feedback. Next, the model can receive feedback from analysts to improve its performance through explicit feedback. Finally, this is scaled to large data sets required for real-world operation. Partnering with Punch, this work has been taken to the high side through integration with Beer Garden, an open source command and control platform used by LAS partners. The analytics were incorporated as Beer Garden modules and tested across several test data sets. Now the team is partnering to deploy these modules in an operational system to test generating recommendations on SIGINT data. 2024 work with Punch will complete this rollout at the test site and refit the models on operational data to generate recommendations for collected data. If you're looking for more information on Punch work, you can find it today in our search pod.
That's a taste of some of the projects we have for you here today in Content Triage. But one other thing we wanted to highlight today is the I Reckon work that has been going on this year at the LAS. Some of you have been following LAS or have been to past symposia might recognize I Reckon. This project has had a big year with collaborative research projects that you can find in all three of our interactive pods, Sight, Sound, and Search. These include collaborations with AWS, Drs. Bertasius and Singh and Meyer Patel from UNC Chapel Hill, and Dr. Busso from UT Dallas. I Reckon work is also anchored at LAS with development of a user interface to bring all this research together. To give you an idea of all the I Reckon work, we have this short video.
I reckon is the project name that encompasses our video analytic research here at LAS. The core goal of this project is to develop techniques and visualizations to help analysts rapidly triage video data. We want to make video content no matter how small or underrepresented the item or action of interest is within a data set. Given the needs of our original customers back in 2019, we produced a prototype user interface to help with refining and prioritizing our customers' dataset. Along this journey, we realized that this decomposable application would be a great place to centralize our outcomes from LAS video analytic research. It's given us firsthand experience on how to combine video analytics for a richer user experience. Specifically, this year, most of our goals have been inspired from previous interactions with this UI prototype. Our first goal this year was to reduce the label burden for an analyst. This year, we focused on optimizing our labeling task. Our team built methods to sample and summarize our data so that we can ensure diversity of labels across the corpus. In addition, we further optimized our workflow by pre-running off-the-shelf models to help reduce the number of actions required by an analyst for each labeling task. Next year, we want to focus a little more on how to combine these steps to provide an analyst detailed feedback on why their specific labels mattered. But what if we didn't have to get an analyst a label at all? What if we could just pass an algorithm some data and it automatically determines how to recognize the objects? That's what some of our research focuses on with Fayetteville State University. Through 3D modeling and generative adversarial networks techniques, we are building out a workflow to test and evaluate how well this process works on mission-related data. Our second goal was to move the needle closer to sense making. We wanted to improve our processing framework so that we could create richer user interface features. Fundamentally, this meant that we needed a way to chain together machine learning model output to get the desired results. For example, one of the analyst questions we wanted to make headway toward this year was, what has changed in this area since the last time I visited? Although simple to ask, when we went to answer this question programmatically, we realized how far down the rabbit hole we had to delve. Just as a disclaimer, we aren't finished with this research, but while we make progress, we are also trying to embed easier options for an analyst to access each particular section of information. So the first section is, how do we identify the same area? For us, our data included GPS coordinates, so we could simply extract the geos from the video. Some of our data didn't include geographic information at all, so further research may be needed to match those videos. How do we identify the same direction? Well, we found a field of view detector that leverages video content and overhead imagery, but it hadn't been trained on the same domain of data, so again, further research was needed. To simplify our assumptions, for our data set, we found that we had 3 different views: a front-facing view, a left-facing view, and a right-facing view. With the help of performer guidance, we were able to narrow down our video footage directionality. For the third step, we wanted to identify specific objects. Well, with the off-the-shelf object detectors like YOLO, we were able to identify large objects of interest within the frame, but it performed poorly when it came to smaller objects. Another performer, SAS, is helping us to figure out ways to get a better model for these smaller objects. Once we have the smaller objects, though, how do we identify the same objects? Well, within a video, we have evaluated object trackers for large objects. Theoretically, with a great object tracker, you can link all the detections across the same video together into one unique object. Unfortunately, we haven't found an off-the-shelf solution yet. It wasn't robust enough for specific use cases to perform at scale. Given our current resources, we are evaluating what modifications we can do to improve this object tracking. And at the very end, how do we actually identify the analyst right change to tell them? Given our previous experience with object tracking, we haven't delved too far into an automated solution for this. But for the current time, we are creating specific content filters based on color and type for vehicles and people. Our third goal is expanding video analytics to the masses. For this year, we wanted to showcase our research outcomes outside of this UI prototype. We wanted to ensure that our processes for this prototype are repeatable and transferable to new domains. Given this goal, we partnered with AWS ProServe to envision a machine learning pipeline that leverages both low and high side data to compute and augment off-the-shelf models for better performance on intelligence community datasets. In addition, they're also focusing on machine learning operations, specifically things like creating metrics to ensure data and models are kept healthier after deployment. If 3 goals weren't enough, our last goal focuses on preparing for the future. Some of our performers are looking at new types of cameras and their corresponding formats to ensure that our machine learning research can be transferred and optimized appropriately. Others are looking at how to efficiently train medium-scale video models via things like parameter-efficient tuning. So with that, be sure to stop by and see if you can find some of these objects within our app.
While I Reckon touches all three of our sight, sound, and search pods, you can find out more information about this flagship project in our search pod. Thanks for coming to our overview of the content triage projects. We now invite you to wander through the exhibition showcased in our three pods. In addition to the RIT, UT Dallas, Punch, and I Reckon activities we've just talked about, you'll also get the opportunity to check out other content triage projects. You can find all of these projects located in the exhibition hall as designated on this map, or feel free to stop one of your LAS hosts and they can point out the way. In the site pod, you can check out content adaptive rate control for surveillance video with event cameras, brought to us by Dr. Singh and Meyer Patel at UNC Chapel Hill. You can check out the Rare and Uncommon Event Project that is a collaboration with Dr. Sambit Bhattacharya and students from Fayetteville State University, along with the SAS team. And you'll also see building an analyst-centered deepfake detection tool from RIT. In the sound pod, you get a chance to hear about two government-led audio projects in addition to the UT Dallas emotion detection project we described earlier. Our sound event detection project team will discuss their algorithms to detect interesting sounds, and the voice characterization analytics for triage team will describe their algorithms and pipelines to locate where people express non-neutral characteristics when talking.
Now, don't forget to search for the search pod where you can find Dr. Bertesius's great work on Vindloo, a recipe for effective video and language pre-training, where we are joined today by one of his Chapel Hill graduate students. Longtime LAS collaborator Blake Hartley from Punch will be talking about their ORBS work, operationalizing recommender-based SIGINT. And you can also find the Punch project on day 2 of our symposium back in our 3rd floor lab tomorrow. Closely related to the Punch work, I'm also super excited to tell you that we have students from our computer science senior design project here today to talk about their spring project on building a data prioritization manager. Be sure and stop by to talk with these Crackerjack students. If you haven't had the chance yet to learn more about the guest project, you have one more shot at it, as Mike will be back for the last session to tell you about it there too. And of course, you can also learn more about I Reckon, the project you just saw in the video, in the search pod as well. And finally, CT, that's content triage, not counterterrorism, is the last session for day 1 of our symposium. So thank you so very much for coming down to see us. Don't forget there's a no-host happy hour at the Lonnie Pole Golf Course Clubhouse Restaurant after the closing remarks, which in addition to being brief, will also take place in the poster room next door to wrap things up for the work here today on our main campus. Well, I got my pic posted on LinkedIn and we are all done talking. So please head next door one last time. Tina and I will see you there. And you can sound off about all the exciting LAS research you learned about here today. So be sure and search for us.